welcome to the ISTA podcast, the spiritual, sexual, shamanic podcast. I'm Simon, and I'm absolutely delighted today to be speaking with Robbie Griffin. Robbie, welcome.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, we've had one crack at recording this podcast, and the tech devils decided that they wanted us to have another.
What a gift.
What a gift. More time spent
gift.
with you, my man.
Exactly that.
Is a gift always. So thank you. Yeah. For our listeners, why don't we start with the basics? Who is Robbie Griffin?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I actually feel to do it a little bit differently. I'm just going to throw this on you. There's this beautiful...
Whoa.
Yeah. Stop. There's this beautiful piece that I'm working with right now called The Genius Myth from Michael Mead. And I'll start with the word myth. To me, myth I always used to think it was like a fictitious story. And what I've started to learn, getting into the etymology of the word, is it means underlying truth. So fate are the experiences that happened to us. They are our family of origin, the experiences of like struggle or wounds or trauma. So you can see fate as the cards we're dealt, and then destiny is what we choose to do with them. And destiny is always pulling us towards meaning, towards creativity, towards purpose, towards wholeness. And if we are victim to our fate, then that can lead to repetitive patterns, addictions, despair. So we have destiny that's pulling us towards our unique genius. And when I say the word genius, I don't mean the kind of modern understanding, which means it's rare. It's like high IQ or creative brilliance, like maybe Da Vinci or Einstein. But the original meaning of the word, which comes from Latin, which means inner spirit or soul companion. So we all have a unique genius. It's our soul purpose. It's what we're here to share with the world, and it comes through us. So instead of having the question, are you genius? It's more, how will your genius appear? So a bit of my story, a bit of my fate was dealt to me. I was brought up in a household where emotional intelligence wasn't modeled, where things weren't really talked about. And there was lots of partying. It was very English, very alcohol orientated to bring people together. And I was a victim of my fate, or I took in these imprints and I repeated them. And that led me through a life where I was kind of searching for success and power, effectively, and money, and gathering a lot of these things in the world, which I managed to amass some of that. But on that journey, I really lost myself. There wasn't a real connection to my inner worlds, which led to addictions, which led to kind of false friendships. There would be something that was bringing us together. I was terrified of really exposing myself because I hadn't really been modeled that growing up, that connection. So there was a deep longing, and I didn't know how to really bring it into reality. I mean, I'm talking with hindsight here because I knew none of this. I thought I was living the life at the time. I'd got to just past 30. I had a successful business. I had a partner. I had a sports car. I had a property portfolio. I had money in the bank. I was like winning in the capitalistic, consumeristic kind of blinkered vision that I've been brought up with, the imprint that I had around what success meant. And I got to this figure, and again, in hindsight, it's almost laughable, but I didn't feel happy. I felt empty. And with that mindset, I kind of put another figure up there, and I was like, okay, when I get here, then it'll be okay. And I got there very quickly. And this despairingly empty feeling grew deeper, if anything. There was more things to be anxious about, more decisions to make, more busyness, more things to lose. And yeah, that was my catalyst. There were many, many whispers along the journey, which I chose not to listen to. But this was a huge awakening for me. No amount of external gratification was going to make me happy. And this was the catalyst to go inwards. At the time, it was like the house of cards came falling down. Everything I thought I knew and wanted on a soul level wasn't authentic. It was very kind of egotistical and superficial. And I'd really, with this blinkered vision to get there, had kind of blocked out a lot of the emotional realms. So it was an awakening and a learning of how to really meet myself, how to allow this young part of me, my inner boy, my emotion, to find the courage to bring it forward, to expose myself. And yeah, studied many different modalities, meditation, yoga, NLP. And about 6 years along this path, I thought I was really getting places, deep psychotherapy. And I was, but then I came across ISTA, did my first ISTA, 2019. And yeah, wow. Yeah, really cracked me open, really, because it was working so deeply with the relational field, this group work, this group technology. A lot of it I'd been kind of doing myself or in small groups. It wasn't really so much around exposing myself, the deep intimacy that can come when I'm really raw, real in the middle of a circle or at the end of a ritual or an embodied experience where I'm sharing where I've struggled, where I'm bleeding, where I'm hurting. And that to me is some of the deepest work possible, because a lot of these experiences come from in our youth where something was missing in the relational field or there was a troubling experience. So to be able to go back and to rewrite them, and with a hopefully more regulated nervous system now and what we know as adults, to give that, to be able to hold our own inner child through that is, yeah, it's a huge gift. And while I was there, I heard of Hyden Temple. I did this in Melbourne, in Australia. And then I heard of Hyden Temple and ended up spending 18 months there doing multiple trainings and facilitating there. And yeah, this is 7 years ago, my first sister, and I've been devoted to this path of deep transformational group containers, working with the relational field ever since. And I'm very grateful today to be facilitating with ISTA, to be holding temples and conscious sexuality events in my home country, and also working deeply with brothers and soul initiation for emergence.
There's another a guy in our field who works a lot with men also, and something I've heard him say is that often with men in Western culture, but obviously applies to everyone also, but there can be this thing that happens in our lives where we set our goals and we climb the mountain. He uses this is Gareth Pickering. He uses this metaphor of climbing the mountain. So we work really hard, maybe we study and we build a career or we build a business or whatever it is, and we get to the top of the mountain. And he talks about this phenomenon that maybe many people resonate with. You're at the top of the mountain, you got what you wanted, and you feel empty, or you're not sure what to do next, or it's like not what you expected it to be to have that. Is this what you experienced in your life? It sounds like something like that was similar. Um, and how did you? What was the shift? You talk about ISTA and the relational field being really important. It sounds like there's something like being in a group with other people doing this intentional healing work at the same time as having real relationships. It's like in the same, so like literally as part of the same process, you're both going through this healing process and trying to operate in real life at the same time. Whereas traditional therapy is like you step out and go and work with a professional and you do some work and then try and apply it to your life. In these group containers, it seems to happen all at once. So it
Mm.
sounds like that was the thing that helped you deal with this phenomenon of being at the top of the mountain and feeling empty.
Mm.
Is that a true statement for you, or like what comes to you?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I love that analogy around being at the top of the mountain. It's like this climb, kind of goal orientated. And I think this is one of the age old wounds that runs through the masculine psyche around needing to prove oneself, to protect, to provide. And it comes from ancient times, from tribal times, when the greatest gift a man could give his tribe was to spill his blood on the battlefield, was to be the sacrificial lamb, was to give his life, the greatest honor. And I believe the soul work of being a man today is to release the patterns of our fathers and our fathers' fathers, and to really allow our unique soul note to be sounded, to reveal, to pull back all this patterning, these blocks, these old coping strategies and mechanisms, to allow our truth, our essence to come forth. So I believe that I needed to go through that climbing, that kind of very egocentric kind of what's in it for me and building and greed and driving with stuff. It's part of my journey. I'm glad I've experienced it. Some people spend their whole life going through that. I don't get there and feel like a failure. Or some people get there, or they go to like retirement and then realize it doesn't matter, and then they relax. Um, yeah. So for me, that journey was it was kind of another moment when I got to what I thought I wanted. It was kind of the cards that fate dealt me. And destiny had been whispering to me. And, I feel I'm much more along the path of my journey. It's like those experiences, like, because there's so much of the story. Obviously, I'm trying to put it into 5 minutes for you, but I also lost everything. I had millions and I lost it. Majority of it, I had a little pot left. So I lost most of it and then managed to build up again. So there's journeys within this which are these fate experiences, which if we can really transmute, some of the greatest leaders I know are very close to their wounds because they realize that's where the wisdom lies. So these experiences that I've had, we've all had, are amazing opportunities to really get to meet deeper parts of myself. How am I through that struggle? What did I learn? What can I then share as service to other people from my experiences? When it's really integrated, it's really embodied rather than maybe text savvy or from a book. It's okay. I've lived through this and I've felt the hardship and the pain and the hurt and the separation, the disconnection that can lead to. So kind of coming back to the group containers, the gift of doing this work in a group container is all the reflections that I get back to me, all um, the incredible shadow work, the confrontation, which are gifts because I can see what I can see in myself, but people can often see my shit better than I can. And maybe I'm a little bit aware of it, and I'm kind of thinking I'm getting away with it. And someone's just like, hey, brother, there's this thing that you're doing that's getting in the way of you really shining. It's getting in the way of me trusting you more. It's getting in the way of me loving you more, which is incredible, because I know in the past, if something came up for me before I started doing this work, if something was there, I wouldn't speak about it, but then it would be between us. And I would either avoid, push away, or maybe it would build and build, and I'd kind of lash out when it got to, like, the pressure cooker got too much. And it's not easy to be really open, raw, and honest. It's an incredible gift of authenticity and knowing how to give these reflections and feedback with heart. But that's really one of the advantages of a group container. Another one that's very clear is the lone wolf. I don't need to do it all alone anymore. I spent a lot of my time like doing these things by myself or building a team around me, but I was kind of at the top. There was this lack of sharing of power, this lack of synarchy. So by doing it in a group field, I can learn from other people. When other people have these eureka moments, these breakthroughs, then it's rich for the field, and we can all drink from that well of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in ISTA, I guess, invested in this idea of the group field or the group container. We hold workshops and retreats for groups. Many of the facilitators have one-on-one clients and work in that way also. But I guess we're deep in what you're talking about, and I totally resonate. It's so wild how much data is there, how much information that you get in front of you when there's 50 people or 30 people or more people than that. The group size varies for people who haven't experienced an ISTA training before. There's so much information there in front of you being reflected back to you. And your experience in that group, your judgments, your projections, what people are saying to you, the whole mix of that, the recipe that you're part of, will be the same as other people's in the groups, but also different. Other people will be having different experiences based on their background and what they're coming in with. So you can have both this individual and a group experience at the same time. But it's impossible not to have a whole bunch of information available to you when you're in one of these workshops or retreats, these group containers, as we're calling them. It's impossible. And something I was thinking as you were saying, you might feel isolated. You might have an experience, oh, I'm so isolated, I'm not part of the group or whatever. But it's impossible to actually be isolated and by yourself. Like objectively, when you're in a group container, you are surrounded by humanity. You are like in this microcosm of what it means to be part of a civilization. So if you feel, for example, if you feel isolated, like this might be a microcosm of how you feel in life, but objectively, you're surrounded by other beings who have a similar makeup as you, and there's something about that that's really profound. That information is there, the reflections are there, the support is potentially there, the relationships are there, and you can step into that, you can lean into that. This is like what so many people I think are desiring so strongly at the moment, and it's there. Forget what we like make people do in the training or like offer as experiences. Just the intensity of sitting in an intentional container with 30 other people can be a lot. But this is like why they're so rich.
I love what you're sharing there. And that's specifically this piece around being alone in a room full of people. And, there's amazing opportunity to delve deep into wounds in these places. And we all have them. So, and often it comes from those imprint years, 0 to 7. So maybe, there's a wound around belonging. And I don't belong, and you're not my tribe. And we can keep that story running, and we can, all the egoic defenses, the clever strategies to prove that story correct, to look for the evidence in that person looked away at that moment. They don't see me. I'm not connected. It's amazing how much subtle information that we might not be consciously aware that we're picking up, but the body is, and it's because it's been doing this for so many years. And it's a chance to rewrite those patterns, those imprints. And it can be really challenging as well. So for some people, or some moments, for everyone maybe, then it's those things will come up and they'll override the system. The child will be driving for a moment, and then we catch it and we can come back and we can hold that part and melt a little bit and let it go. And I love what you're sharing there, because there's these kind of certain overarching experiences. So, for instance, belonging, not connected, not seen, not understood. There's certain kind of wounds that will play out, and they've all come from a slightly different place because we're all got our unique experience in life. But there's these kind of archetypal playouts. And I love what you're sharing around the group field, and especially being a facilitator or someone who's experienced in these fields. Yes, to start off with, like, I know I hung on every word people said and took it as kind of gospel of their experience. And then after a while, once we hear a few of these come through different times and we notice the similarities, and this is a huge piece for the human experience, because a lot of time we're looking to what makes us different or trying to pick something, and that can be unconscious, just the ego being defensive, doing what it does. Once we start to really listen to the similarities within people's experiences and stories, then we can start seeing, instead of being just deeply in the personal, we can also start looking at the archetypal realm and where these are playing out. And there's certain maps that we use in level 1 and especially in level 2, the old level 2, which allow us to peel back the layers and maybe get out of the personal kind of story, the swamp and the spinning of the personal story. And there's space for that as well, of course. But once we can take some breath, sort of come up from the water and see, okay, this is playing out. I'm doing this thing. And then we can call on these archetypes to also call in what we need in that time to step into greater power, to greater expression, to greater creativity. Then it can really support the evolution of our beings. And this is why we're doing it, is to hold the parts that are hurting, to give them love, to allow them to feel nurtured, to give them the compassion, and then to support them to flourish from maybe the kind of wounded child to the creative. And then what can come through in life? That's exciting.
Is what you're saying about fate versus destiny relevant to what you're speaking about now? Like holding those parts of ourselves that are maybe wounded, so that you use the word flourishing, that creativity and flourishing that can come forward. Could we also say, we want to hold the parts of ourselves that have been affected by fate and give some love to it, so that this, our unique genius, the spirit within can come forward.
This is exactly it. It's a beautiful piece. It's weaving through a lot of the storylines of the work that I'm doing. And it's true and it's a mythological kind of archetypal realm story, which we can all relate to. And we're at different stages. We might still be really at victim to our experiences, to our fate, subject to the fate. Or we might be now kind of getting glimpses. We might be getting a head above the water and being, okay. Oh, wow, that experience. Yeah, it's really challenging. And learning to give love to that place so it can feel nourished and held. And once we have that self-compassion, we can then meet other people and maybe empathize with their situation deeper, because that part within us has been met. Therefore, we can see other parts of people and really see them there without needing to fix them and that can be so, so powerful, people, just to be witnessed with some loving presence and letting them know that it's okay. It's part of them. Because I can see how we have these experiences through life, and it's like a little part of our soul kind of fractures off. And a lot of what we're doing, a lot of what I'm doing anyway right now, and people through the containers that I'm running are, it's kind of like soul retrieval. The parts that are frozen, that got overwhelmed. Trauma has become a very popular word in these realms right now, and really it's too much, too fast, not enough for too long. So whatever what the experience was, and there's so much wisdom in the way the body responds. So it's exactly what was needed in that moment. What might be a traumatic experience to one person isn't necessarily the same for another. It's just the way we respond to it. And it's really important to be able to go back as we are and give love to these parts, to allow them to come back in, to allow the frozen part or the part that ran to be loved, to be nourished. So we are slowly becoming more whole. And this is really the essence of the work that I am offering to the world, that ISTA offers, is around wholeness. And if you look at the original, again, etymology of the word healing, it means to become whole. And now I'm not suggesting that that's, again, a goal, kind of masculine, I've got to become whole, but really it's progression, not perfection. We're on that path, and we're slowly reclaiming parts of ourselves. And this really, the work we're doing, yes, it's deeply personal. And it also is for the generations to come. And for our friends and our family, the more I can love myself, the more I can meet myself, the more authentic I can be, then the more I can meet others, the more I can love others, the more I'm not trying to change or adapt others to suit me. And yeah.
What's the part of yourself that needed the most love?
There were many parts, I'd say, to start with, a disclaimer. And the part that's coming up right now is around nourishment. Yeah, it's around learning how to be compassionate to myself, to be kind, to be soft, to be slow. My default there was neglect in my family, like emotional neglect. I was definitely looked after. There was a roof over my head. I was very, very looked after. And it wasn't until I was in therapy when I was maybe 32 when someone coined this phrase, emotional neglect. I hadn't ever heard of it, and I just, like, every cell of my being was like, that was my experience. I didn't never heard of it. I heard neglect. I was like, no, I wasn't neglected. I was always like good upbringing. They had money and all that stuff. And emotional neglect, I was like, wow, yeah, that is me. So I'm not, like, there was definitely when I was younger blaming, but not in any consciousness either. I didn't know what was missing. I just was angry because I didn't know how to express myself. And I completely understand for my parents, like, they're again, the pattern that was played out with them, and they're repeating it. So they were doing their best. And yeah, I can see once I've opened up more and more and understood their story, I'm like, oh wow, you really were just playing out the pattern. So I have deep empathy even for them, compassion for them. But my experience of not feeling nourished meant that from a very, very young age, I became independent. It's like, again, if you're maybe psychologically, it was like, if I don't look after myself, that, my primary caretakers aren't going to be there for me. Therefore, I will die. So there was this part of me that was like, okay, I've got to be strong and I've got to make something for myself. Otherwise, I won't be looked after. And this was driving me, this shadow or this pattern or this negative belief that was imprinted when I was young. So that was why I was driven in the world to prove myself. And you could see that a lot. I love to kind of delve into some people that are hugely successful, some of the richest people in the world, and some of them are miserable. There's never going to be enough. They're trying to fill this hole by all these external $1 trillion, bank accounts or coins or wherever they've stashed their loot. And it's perpetuating the cycle. It's still chasing. So for me, nourishment. Now, I've had some beautiful transmissions of nourishment as well. So I, before I sort of started consciously relating, I often would outsource that from a partner, like get her to look after me, get her to mother me, basically. Before I kind of started consciously relating, I was attracting in my mother again and again and again to work with those pieces until something clicked in me to wake up to see, okay, this is a pattern repeating. What needs to change in me to change my external experience? And yeah, since then, I've had some beautiful transmissions where, I mean, I'll give a few examples. Like when I first moved back to Portugal um, a few years ago, and my flatmate, every night she used to have a bath with Epsom salts, and she used to have candles and essential oils, and I was like, every day and for hours, I was just like, it's like productivity, and then lo and behold, the next winter I'm in London, and every evening there I am, my Epsom salts and my my essential oils, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so deeply resourcing and nourishing. Yeah, and I mean, I was recently ill, and I was holding a container. It was like the first few days, and it was like really belly stuff I was working through. And I was there, and I was holding myself. I was giving myself that, and my current partner kind of came in my psyche, and I could feel her energy there with me. And the reason that came through is because I mean, her mum's a nurse. She does this beautiful transmission of care. She's been really cared for deeply in her family. Like it's a real imprint for her. So it's no surprise that I'm attracting that in to allow this piece to integrate in me. So I'm lying there and I can feel her there, and and it's the imprint that she's given me. But it's me giving it to me now. It's not me having to rely on her to give it to me. So it's a piece that's integrated in my being. And yes, I can feel the flavor of her transmission. And I'm like, thank you for this imprint. So I can give that to myself. And again, with my day to day and my industrious, ambitious plans for everything I'm doing in my life, I'm slowing down a lot. I'm saying no a lot more than I ever have done. I'm taking a lot of space. And in that space, there's a lot more for me to feel and for stuff to arise. And I'm grateful to have a great psychotherapist that I'm seeing every week, and great to have some amazing community around me where I can bring that heartbreak, that grief, that sensation of aloneness. And that's been a big piece for me, feeling this neglect from a young age around aloneness. And there's a deep medicine there for me. I think it really opened up about 6 years ago when I left Haydn, this grief portal. I'd been keeping myself busy, distracted, moving to avoid feeling this deep well of grief, of not feeling the love of my parents growing up. Now they were doing their best to love me, I can see that, but I didn't know how to receive that. I didn't feel loving to me. It wasn't what I needed as a child, and it really opened up parts of my being that there was so much repressed and unfelt grief. It was a deep portal. It was catalyzed by a breakup with a partner, but that was just the catalyst because I gave space to it. I allowed myself to fall into it, to feel it. And it's, getting to the stage of overwhelm, and I could give myself a break, go surfing, do something, but I was really giving myself a few months to spiral deep, get to meet this part of me.
Yeah. If people start to go on this journey, some people listening will know exactly what you're talking about. Some people will be like, dude, how did you spend 3, 6 months, whatever it is, spiraling into grief? Didn't you have work to do, or didn't you have responsibilities to take care of? It can be it can be a theme in your life. It's like when you get home at night, it's like, how do you feel? Do you just click on the TV and watch the football, or do you spend, I don't know, when you're taking your baths, which you now enjoy, like maybe you're feeling, it feels nourishing for your body, but maybe you're sitting with these feelings of grief in certain moments throughout the days or the weeks. So it can be kind of, you're having an experience over 6 months where, yeah, and I'm always wary of using language that's too metaphorical and therefore maybe inaccessible for people. But maybe you're going through like a story of unraveling grief, as you're saying, from an earlier
Mm,
period in your life, which you haven't had the space to feel before. So that
mm,
when you get home from your work, why do I feel so sad now?
mm,
Why does it feel worse or more expansive? Or why do I feel it deeper this week than last week? And there's so much um, in allowing ourselves to feel like that. It's like not okay to feel like that in our
mm,
culture because we can't just be crying at work, in many
mm.
businesses. What if that makes us non-functional for a bit? It's really out there in the culture to not feel certain feelings. And if we can somehow, through speaking to people, group containers, yes, for sure, but like opening up to art that transmits
Mm,
these kinds of human experiences to us, and just sort of receiving, we would say maybe receiving the transmission of a piece of art that just feel, for some reason, the blues and the attitude on a person's face in a painting might make us feel a tinge of sadness. What if we really let that sadness within us grow and see what it hits and whether there's some sadness that wants to be expressed through us? If we can go there and give ourselves space to actually feel it, I don't think it knocks us out from being a vibrant member of society. It actually like deepens and expands our expression of what it means to be human, and um, ultimately lets us show up better for other people.
beautiful. I love your I'll quote you there, paraphrase you. Deepens
Yeah,
and expands our capacity to be human.
yeah, yeah.
And I love the piece you shared around functionality, and like, because this is a lot of what society wants us to be. It's like in the workforce, productive, and even this lens of creativity and productivity.
Mm,
It's like that's not where society wants us to go. So, and it's beautiful what you shared around, yeah. How does it look? How does it look to spiral into a well of grief? And yeah, I mean, it might mean spending a lot of time alone, and maybe it is if you're fortunate enough not to be working or being able to work only certain hours or days. Yes, but how it can look is really leaning into community. It comes back to this relational field is being honest. Now you don't have to tell everyone who says, "Are you okay?" on the street or "How are you?" but actually having support of people. And this is what I was lacking when I was young. I
mm,
used to do anything I could to not be seen as vulnerable. I saw vulnerability as weakness from my experience growing up, where I had to hold myself, I had to be independent. It got so ingrained in my being. And now I see the strength it takes to be vulnerable. And there are a lot of people out there in the world struggling. It's really tumultuous times in the world. There's so much crisis going on. And it breaks my heart when I think of the brothers, especially that I've lost, who haven't had spaces to share where they're bleeding, to share what's burdening their heart, what's burdening their soul. So they've kept it inside, or they've just not known how. It's not been modeled. It's still got the old kind of masculine mentality of kind of buck up, get on with it, man up, all that stuff. So the work we're doing is important for changing what's the social norms. And it is changing. It is making a difference in the world. So it's a gift to be able to have the courage to bring these parts. And I love what you shared around deepening your experience of being human, your humanity. There's so much, can be so much focus, including in the spiritual realms, like focus on high energy, good vibes. And to be authentically in that energy, we also need to meet these places in our darker realms, the parts that maybe aren't so life affirming. And as a byproduct, they are life affirming because once we can move through them, again, it's like the fated experiences, then we can reclaim these parts to allow us to be more whole, to be more human, to be more ourselves.
mm. So if we're open and willing to and embarking on that process, becoming more whole, loving those parts that maybe fate has dealt cruel blows,
Mm.
um, what does the experience of noticing our destiny or being receptive to our destiny and then like seizing it
Mm.
or stepping down that destined path, what does that look like?
So it looks different for everyone, and it's not like a set thing either. Like it's
Mm,
constantly moving and evolving.
mm,
So what might be the North Star today or tomorrow or over the next few weeks, in a few years' time will shift it. I'm sure if we retrospectively kind of reflect on where I was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, it's amazing how quickly we can manifest things in our lives. But really, it's something that comes through us as well. So often it's around service
mm,
to something bigger than oneself. I recently learned how lions hunt. And what I learned, it's not really the lions you need to look out for, but the lionesses. So the lions are there, they're the king of the jungle, this huge mane and majestic beings. And there's the lionesses, stealthy, slowly stalking through the grass. And there the lions are, give this almighty roar that can be heard for like 5 miles over the savannah. And it's this innate instinct from the zebra, from the antelope, from the prey to run away from the roar.
mm,
And in doing so, run completely into the trap of the lioness and takes them down. So I can see how this has been true of my life as well. There were these experiences I had growing up. For instance, again, mother, bless her, it like our sense of humour growing up, and it's very English, is ridicule. We take the piss. I mean, your Aussie brother here, we've got some good English links there as well from the old days. So it's very Australian as well, tall poppy syndrome kind of thing, take people down. Now, I was 6 years old writing a story, my first like story for school, and my mum comes in, she's had a few drinks, and I had a lisp, and it turns out I have dyslexia, figured it out like 4 years later. But she's there kind of laughing, reading with my lisp and like fag hanging out of her mouth, had a drink, and kind of reading the words the way I spelt them. And yeah, I mean, at the time, like I was distraught. I felt angry. I felt upset. I ran out of the room. I came back and it was like first thing ever kind of typed back in the day. So it was delete button just the whole way through. But
mm,
what the effect it had on me was I would do anything to avoid being ridiculed. So it hugely shut down my expression, which meant that I didn't want to be in front of people at school plays. I didn't want to sing in front of people. I'd do anything to not be seen like that and have the potential of being taken down, being laughed at. And I mean, if you knew me, say, 12 years ago, I would still be shaking while reading in front of people, and my mind would be racing, and all these thoughts about what people are thinking, and I'm fucking up, and blah, blah, blah. The mind is just completely like a trauma response, being a flight response. And yeah, so there's this fear, and I was doing everything to avoid it. And
mm,
even at school, I was like the cool kid to avoid being like any option of being taken down. So all these things are like behaviors were playing out. And now I speak in front of hundreds of people and start delving into the arts of poetry and storytelling, mythology, and singing, and all these things which are deeply exposing.
mm,
So the invitation is to run towards the raw, is to do the very thing that's scaring you, the very thing that in your being, this fated experience has been kind of driving me the other way. My innate response was to stay away from that at all costs, because that's my ego, it kind of trying to protect me. But often it's in those experiences that we've had where it is the very gold, is the very unique genius that we're here to serve, to share with the world. So right now for me, it looks like Emergence Brotherhood. It looks like ISTA and temples. And I'm doing like comedy improv and a few other things. And that's where I'm at now. And I'm excited and I'm grateful to be able to have the courage to have, after 30 years of running, 25 years of running, last 12 years or so, being able to lean in more, and it's evolving rapidly. So how does it look? Chances are, if we listen to the whisper, what we are seeking is seeking us. So there's a calling, which is the path the destiny is trying to take us on to our soul purpose.
Mm. Mm. So there's a link between our destiny and our soul purpose?
Yeah, I believe that the unique genius is our soul purpose. Again, purpose doesn't necessarily mean something we're doing, but it's who we're being, how we're turning up. So it doesn't have to be this grandiose, like saving the world or making a huge impact to many, many people. It might be like being a father, which make a huge impact to one or two or how many people. Or it might even be gardening, landscaping, but it's how you're doing it. How much love are you pouring in? How much are you giving yourself to this? So, especially in our modern world with globalization and the internet, like people wanting to be famous and this sensation, and really fame comes from being attuned to what your gift is rather than what we see now, which is more like celebrityism. Being a celebrity is like being known by many people, but really fame comes from knowing yourself, knowing what it is that you're here to share.
So what does it feel like for you to be in a leadership role, connected to soul and destiny and the heart, I guess? What does that feel like? Because you say, you've got this amazing Emergence Brotherhood project that you've been leading, and ISTA trainings and temples and groups and clients and all these kinds of things. I see you in this leadership role. What does it feel like to lead from that place?
I mean, there's two aspects, I guess. One is kind of, it's deeply vulnerable. I talked around the tall poppy syndrome. It's like there can be a part of me that knows that I'm doing my best to attune and to be aligned, and with all my flaws, with all my baggage, with all my distortions and filters, giving my best. And it can be hard when I don't feel seen, or there's projections, and it happens in every moment with everyone. So and I do it on other people, so it's completely understandable. And it's literally what I'm signed up for as a facilitator in these transformational spaces. By just stepping into the space, by putting the facilitator hat on, by sat in that chair, then there's immediate projections of people's maybe parent wounds, authority, power. So it's, say, a relational field. It's a deeply powerful transformational field when we're really doing our best to be aware of all the things that can play out. And I'm constantly learning and evolving. And the gift is those times where there is a lack of attunement or we get things wrong, then they can often be the greatest times of hardship and the greatest times of learning, if we're really willing to allow the medicine to be drunk in to as much as I can in that moment, the capacity of my nervous system. So there's that aspect, and then there's, which is kind of like for me, I guess it's kind of like the external kind of gaze as well, and then how it feels in my being is this kind of deep well of care. Yeah, there's this. I feel my heart, and I can feel love pouring out, and longing for people to step into their power, into their greatness, into their genius, so that they can feel more fulfilled by life, more empowered, more content, and that they can share their gifts with the world, and they can sprinkle their joy, their happiness, their lessons, their medicine to as many people so they can make an impact. And if more and more people are waking up and more souls are coming to that expression, then there's going to be a huge shift in civilization. From maybe this kind of what's in it for me culture to love and freedom. And it's not easy. I'm grateful to have brothers like yourself and support from elders and mentors and peers and reflections from participants, so that I can constantly refine and look at parts of myself that need love, that are been in the shadow, that feel hurt. And yeah, I'm on my own journey to wholeness. I'm my own journey of transformation. I'm deeply, deeply passionate about it, and it feels like it's my dharma to be here, to be doing this, to be transforming the fate of my 30 plus years of completely being subject to it. And now more fate comes, of course, more experiences come, and they keep realigning my destiny and my genius.
We're coming towards the end of our time together today. Is there anything else that is still bubbling in you that wants to, take this opportunity to come forth?
There's a little poem that maybe wants to come through. I'm noticing this in a lot of containers that I'm in. There's this longing for deeper love and connection. And I shared briefly around my journey with aloneness from my childhood and through grief. So there's a little poem from Hafiz. It's amazing to think that this poem's been circulating humanity for 700 odd years. How many years it's kissed. Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Allow it to cut you more deep. Allow it to season and ferment you as few humans or even divine ingredients can. Something missing in your heart today makes your eyes so soft, your voice so tender, your need for love absolutely clear. Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Allow it to cut you more deep.
Thank you, Robbie.
Absolute pleasure, Simon. I really appreciate you and our time together. Very sweet spot in my heart. For my little boy wants to play with your little boy and hang out more. So, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for perseverance and coming back and all the rearrangements. And I really appreciate your steadfastness and your care and your heart and delivering this podcast as well as hopefully people get to hear it and get to feel some resonance and decide to take a step further on their journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Thank you. We like to offer our listeners some candy at the end at the end of the episode sometimes. Are you up for some quick fire questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. In 5 words or less, that's what we need from you with your answers. If you were going to compete in an Olympic event, what would your Olympic event be?
High jump came to me, so short ass will do a high jump. They can't tell on the screen how small I am, so.
Okay. What'd you have for dinner last night?
I had a dal. I'm living in Southall, which is like India, like little India in London. So top level dal.
Amazing. If you were a piece of furniture, what would you be?
A rocking chair.
Okay.
Very resourcing, just the rocking.
What's your favorite item of clothing that you own?
This was my little chain I got here. Dear friend gave it to me. He made it actually. He lives out in Ibiza, and goes far and wide with me.
Oh, cool. And who's been your greatest teacher?
I mean, many of the kind of people that are no longer with us, poets, etc. But I'm actually going to give Bruce some credit. Yeah, dear brother, he made such an impact in my life from a point where I really needed it, and still does. Yeah, he still whispers wisdom and has supported emergence as a wisdom keeper, and just feel his allyship. Even when we don't speak much, it's just, he's just solid.
Yeah, that's Bruce Lyon.
Bruce Lyon.
Yeah. Amazing.
Not Bruce Forsyth.
Many Bruces out there,
get it right.
Especially down in Australia.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
Batman.
Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Incredible. So how can people get in touch with your work, Robbie, if they want to follow up and know what you're doing?
Sure. Thank you. Instagram, Robbie Griffin Alchemy. My website, robbiegriffin.life. And on my website, you can see the temples I run. And then if you go to emergencebrotherhood.com, you can also see the men's work that I offer, which is deeply powerful. And we also have like free discovery calls. So if any part of you is interested, you've watched Simon and I chat now and you feel some sort of openness, then wholehearted invitation to reach out and see if we're a good fit.
Amazing. Thanks again, Robbie. Always great to drop in with you, brother. And I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Simon. See you soon.